Hello and welcome to the first episode of A Coffee with Chris in 2026, the social media show that helps you create impact. As always, brought to you in association with our charity partner, 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀, who help local people affected by cancer. And get ready for this, new for 2026, Game Plan Coffee. Game Plan Coffee, you might be asking. That's right, Paddy and Scott's special coffee partnership with the High Performance Foundation. Every single bag you buy helps them support the work of the High Performance Foundation, funding programs that help young people across the UK develop the mindset and tools to not just survive, but thrive in the UK. So if you love your coffee and you believe in giving young people a fair shot at their own high performance, grab yourself a bag of Game Plan Coffee today. I'll be honest with you, they sent through the coffee over Christmas and I've already smashed through quite a lot of it and it is absolutely delicious. So I will be sipping on that today. That's the formalities. Oh no, it's not the formalities done out of the way. Of course, I have to say a massive thank you to our existing sponsors as well. Oliver Hill from Hill Coaching Company, amazing man, amazing business. Gemma Crane from Mindset HR, amazing woman, amazing business. And Callum Howard of Limitless Film Media, amazing man, amazing business, all super talented, and you should check those guys out. Let's welcome today's guest. He's on for a double now. It's the director of Javelin Content Management, Paul Banks. Javelin, for those of you that don't know, help busy business owners turn 20 minutes of recording into weeks of professional, ready-to-use content without the workload. Paul, welcome back onto A Coffee with Chris. Let's start with the why. Why do you think so many people start a podcast, a video series with so much excitement, and then quietly it sort of slowly dies a death and becomes a bit of a burden rather than an asset?
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of research into this a little bit deeper at the moment. I'm actually doing a project with a lady who's just started her own podcast, and I've done a pre-interview before she starts the podcast, before she started recording, and we're going to go 6 months later. We're doing a post-interview, and we're doing bite-sized videos along the way. So she's just downloading her thoughts to me as we go. So I'm going to do a whole media campaign on this later on down the line. So I love that you've asked that question, Chris, and also Happy New Year, everyone. I think it is largely to do with when you first start out, there's an exciting project ahead and it seems pretty simple. And most people just want to dive into it, which is fine. I've got no problem with just diving into it because done is better than perfect. But then you get 2 or 3 episodes in, you realize that you've also got to run a business at the same time. And it's a lot of work. It can be a lot of work. And it's a lot of mental capacities required to do it. Like you've got to be everywhere and doing lots of things. And lots of people aren't technical, which throws people under the bus a lot, because you know a lot of the tech companies would have you believe that you can just put your podcast into our system and out pops this polished, brilliant episode at the end, and all these clips are gonna, and it don't work like that, sadly. Maybe one day, but we're definitely not there yet. So yeah, I think it's the excitement is genuine, and it has to start with that excitement. It should start with that excitement, because when people are passionate about what they want to get across, that's brilliant. But don't shy away from the fact that behind the scenes there's a lot of work going on, even for a simple podcast, that you need to be prepared for and have a plan for, I think.
Preach, Paul. I think that's a great way to kick things off. I've been so looking forward to getting you on again, Paul, to kind of dive deeper into the kind of the tools, the habits, the platforms, your wisdom, advice, whatever, when it comes to not just starting a podcast, but kind of keeping it moving and keeping it growing as well, because so many people start and fall over. And cards on the table, people, Paul's a huge asset to Reeve Social Media in terms of helping produce this very podcast, actually. And he has really helped on that. So I'm sure, Paul, you'll go into that today. We're not kicking our pants off 90 episodes of A Coffee with Chris now. And I can safely say that without Paul's advice, simply wouldn't have got to this point today. So just want to say this isn't just fluffy nonsense. This is actual, tangible, genuine, helpful, valuable advice that Paul's going to share today. So do listen in carefully. There's your plug, Paul, Early Doors.
So in the post.
starting out, Paul, right? Because I know we are going to talk about keeping it running and all of that stuff. But when it first comes to starting out, how could you set up to start and continue and succeed rather than start and fall off? What are the kind of key things that a business should have in place to keep it smooth and simple and lasts a lifetime?
I think there's a couple of different answers to that, and I want to address both of them, right? First up is expectations for the podcast and what you want to get out of it. And a lot of people approach a podcast with the wrong expectations in the first place. And so they approach it from a business standpoint, and what am I going to get out of this, and how is this going to make me money, and how many views does it take to get sponsored and monetized on YouTube, and all of these sorts of things, right? Which for the vast majority of podcasts, I'm not going to lie to you, you've got no chance. Even if you do get monetized, you're going to make a pittance. It's not going to pay the bills, right? That is the wrong approach, and do not go into it for that reason. By all means, aim for it, but it's not your start point. And what I constantly remind people of is that the podcast, if you do it right, I mean, there's various types of podcasts, and I'm using a wide brush here, right? But there's generally, if we're talking B2B podcasts, there's two types. There's the type where I talk and monologue about a specific subject on a regular basis. And there's those where we have guests on and we talk to the guests and try and find the golden nuggets of whatever we're looking for from their conversation. And my reminder to anybody who's thinking about a podcast or their early days in their podcast, if you're focusing too much on the metrics and not enough on enjoying yourself in the podcast, that's going to go bang pretty rapidly, because as soon as your energy runs out, and it will, it did for me once, right? It did for me. Once that energy runs out, you're sat there thinking, why am I doing this? And what am I going to, this isn't driving anything. So it's got to go beyond the business measures that you'd immediately look to, right? And for me, it's about being able to build the relationships and connections. That is way more important than anything you'll get financially from the show, from the sponsors that you've mentioned. Chris, you do a fantastic job of bringing sponsors on board. But at the end of the day, I know that it for you is about helping bring the relationships with your guests along and showcasing your expertise, their expertise, and together we all win, right? I know that's what you're about, and that's right. It should be that. So if you're going into a podcast with anything other than excitement at what you're going to be talking about, because you're trying to push it down a direction to try and get sponsorship for your business, you might as well just stop now, because that's going to fail massively. That's one of the standpoints.
Paul, sorry to interrupt you, matey. One of the things that I know that you talk about is kind of record and walk away. So what does a smart, scalable podcast system look like in reality?
I think you need to be building your process as you go, right? And it's something that too many people think about too late. Is they'll go in, they'll do a great job with their first podcast because they're really into, we can use all these different tools and we can do all these different things, great. And you come to do the second one, and all of a sudden you have to remember what you did with the first one. And so you've kind of got the first one up on the screen and you're scratching your head thinking, I did all those things and I've got to go back and, I did that. And then you publish it and realize you missed something big out the middle. I'll get it on the next one. But then there's always something that gets dropped or lost. It becomes a burden. It becomes hard work. It's like, I thought I'd done it right this time. So my biggest advice I can give to anyone is, as you build that first episode, maybe your second one, build yourself a process. Just a simple spreadsheet. Write it down, what you've done, the big steps, not the little tick this box, click that button, but the major steps, right? I'm going to put it into this platform. I'm going to delete these bits out. I'm going to add these bits in. And then tweak it as you go. And it's a pain in the backside to maintain for the first 10 episodes because it's always changing. But eventually it becomes your gospel, and you probably don't even need to think about it much anymore after that. It's just a reference point for when you've had a couple of weeks holiday. That for me is the difference of what I provide for my clients, as opposed to them trying to do that themselves. And that's the key for record and walk away. You need to do these 3 bits here, these 10 bits here I'm going to do, and these 3 bits down here come back to you again. That's the premise of record and walk away. But if you want to try and get that as close as you can for yourself, maybe you've got an outsourced partner, maybe you've got somebody on Fiverr or Upwork or whatever you're doing, just have that plan built as early as possible, because without that, you're trying to remember it all and run a business and we know running a business is a billion things at once anyway, right? Take the weight off your shoulders, for God's sake. It's not a pleasant thing to have to do, building that list. It's awful, I know, but you will thank yourself for it in a few weeks' time.
Again, testify to that, Paul, because your process I've embedded with Coffee with Chris, and it's why it's gone and gone and gone and gone. And it's why I never have that fear of feeling if I'm on holiday or post-Christmas, I'm like, right, here's my tick list. And it's always crisp, it's always polished, not, polished in what we say, of course, but the process, the execution is there. And speaking of execution, Paul, I wanted to ask you to lift the lid a little bit in terms of how on earth do you go about turning one conversation into what you call weeks and weeks of content without it feeling perhaps repetitive or forced? Because it blows my mind what you managed to achieve, and I wonder if other businesses can achieve that too.
To give the audience an example of that, right? Like I generally post between 3 and 5 times every single day, regardless. Like over Christmas, New Year, everything. Like I just leave it on now because I've got that much content, and I could probably recycle almost all of it if I wanted to. I just don't need to, and I'm proud of that, and it works. I think you've got to have the right technology behind the scenes, and you've got to have the right approach to using it, right? A lot of people will go for the easy route. They'll just go and they'll find a clip repurposing program. I'm not going to name any brands, but there's some obvious ones that are on the tip of everyone's tongue. And what you'll find is you get 3 halfway decent clips and 17 variations of the same one, right? They're annoying, and it's a lot more work than you'd expect. You might as well learn to do it yourself, is the way I see it. So I personally, I'm ADHD, right? So I really struggle with what I call visual editing. So I can't watch a video and go, oh, that was a clip there. I need to rewind it back to the bit where we said that, and then this bit here, that's the end point, and then this is the clip in the middle. I can't do that. So I have to read the transcript. So I use a platform called Descript. Riverside's an alternative. They both do very similar now. And they will transcribe what's been said in the show into show notes, so that you can look at the words that are in there and decide, right, that is the really interesting bit in there. And there's variations of bits of AI that they now deploy to kind of help you find those clips very easily. And it's getting better. I'm not going to lie, it's getting better. But it still needs human oversight. So it's balancing off tools that will allow you to quickly get the thick of the work done with being the human over the top of that computer to go, yeah, but the start point of this section was here. The end was here. And actually this bit of fluff in the middle, we need to delete out because that's rubbish. Nobody cares. Stumbling over the words, or it's a load of filler words or whatever. You probably delete most of what I say at the day, Chris. It's filler words, right? But I think that's the bit that most people miss out, because when you get busy and you've got client delivery to do, it's easy just to press the button and hope the computer's going to do it for you. It's not. We're a long way from that still. And I've been doing this nearly 5 years now. It's still a long way away, but it's getting closer. But you do need to find the time to put your human effort into it. Otherwise, you're just projecting poor quality content into the void, which nobody wants.
So the opposite of poor quality content, Paul, will of course be a client of yours, I'm sure. And I would love for you to kind of share how your kind of podcast process, your tools, your techniques, your wisdom, your advice has steered them to success and has kept their video content, their podcast going and going and going. I'd love for you to share an example with our audience so they know it's real and not just fluff.
Yeah. Couple of small examples that I've got. Well, I say small, I'm very proud of them, but they are quite small in terms of what I talk about today. So one is a recent client that we've signed up, and they were, previous to working with us, they were an audio only podcast. They used video clips for socials, but they weren't really doing much with YouTube other than connecting their audio podcast up with YouTube and letting it put out on the Google podcasts. And she knew that she wanted to get more involved with YouTube Shorts and short form content, but she had no idea how to do it. They've got all of these. So for every episode they've created, it's all there in video. They've just done nothing with the video other than these tiny little clips. And the month we started working with them, we were fortunate enough that they ticked over 1,000 subscribers. So they've done a really good job themselves in 3 years. And in the next 8 weeks, we added another 230 subscribers to their channel, just through funneling people from shorts to catch their attention to longer clips where they added some value back and we started to get subscribers, to push them to the episodes where they actually really got involved with the show and binge watched and all of those really good things. So it's that, you know, people say, do I need shorts or do I need long form content? And for me, it's you need everything in bits. Don't try and do everything at once, but you need everything. You need the short form catches the attention. I'm not going to waste 30 minutes of my time on your podcast if I don't know it's worth it. So give me 30 seconds, give me a minute, give me 90 seconds. Oh, I really enjoyed that. I'm going to come back. I remember your name when I'm scrolling through. I'm going to remember that. The longer form content. Oh, you solved a problem for me. That's something I'm struggling with. Now I know how to deal with it. I'm going to go away and do that. And then the episode is the real kind of getting involved and building a community and getting to know people. So that's the first example that I'd share, Chris. Really proud of that. Love that story, and she's doing extremely well even now in January when I thought things would have died off.
Well, you know me, I'm not surprised, Paul. You have so many examples of amazing podcast development and processes and execution, keyword there, which is exceptional work. So kudos to you for that. Do you know the thing I want to kind of subtract out of that and really go in on is I want to make a point. There are tons of podcasts out there that are still audio only. And the people that produce audio only podcasts will say something like this: I don't need video. I don't need video clips because my audience only listen to the podcast. They don't watch it. And I have to, of course, politely educate and remind them that, yes, that might be the case. They're listening on, I do that. I listen on the way to the gym or out and about or whatever. But we have to remember that key word that you said earlier, Paul, attention. And we have to grab their attention. And the best way to do that on social media is through video. And I know that I probably don't need to say that, but I just want to remind people that even if you've got an audio only podcast, do one video at least, please, to properly promote that podcast. Because if not, you're spending so much time and effort creating this thing that no one even knows exists because you're not using a video clip to promote it. And I just think it's such a crying shame, Paul. I just wanted to really zoom in on that. And the other thing is, you mentioned YouTube Shorts. Heck, how many people do you know, Paul, alone, that haven't even posted a YouTube short yet? And right now, the organic traction on those is monumental, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to the first point, I think everybody consumes content in different ways, and a lot of podcast hosts get trapped into their own preference and assume that's for everyone else because my audience is like me, right? Irony is I'm a video editor, right? I'm what I call a functional video editor, a process-driven editor, right? I don't consume video content. There's an irony, right? Like that. People laugh when I tell them, right? But it's true. I prefer audio, but I know lots of people who can't stand audio, don't have the time for it, and would be distracted by it. So they watch it in fleeting moments and they're scrolling on their phone or put it on the TV. And YouTube is such a big opportunity that people miss because you don't use it. And assume that everybody else doesn't either.
Yeah.
They do.
And let's bring psychology into it as well, Paul. So many people don't realize and this is why we're talking specifically about maintaining a podcast video editing process today. Let's put the word psychology into the room. Literal psychology of seeing a face over and over again. It's age-old, timeless advice. If you are consistently sharing your face on social media, I know it's daunting, but it will get so much more traction and people will feel that rapport, that connection. And then when you do in real life networking, people recognize you. Oh yeah, I've seen you on LinkedIn, Chris. Oh, yeah, I've seen your LinkedIn, Paul. And like, I just really wanted to kind of scratch that itch for people and be like, right, come on, this year, start to use video and maintain video to promote and plug your podcast. And you can obviously do that through Paul's advice. Paul, what are the big red flags? What are the mistakes that you see people making with their videos on podcast promotional material, or perhaps just not being able to maintain a podcast? What are the big mistakes, the reasons why people fail so often?
I think we've nailed it all along in this episode, Chris. The main one is that they don't repurpose it. Like they don't give people a reason to watch their full-length episodes. They promote it with maybe an image, maybe a copy-written post. If you're lucky, they might have a highlight reel. Not many do. And then expect people to give what in 2025 was the biggest thing that anybody could give you, let alone 2026, is their attention span. And the attention spans are getting shorter and shorter as we go on. Without, as you mentioned, the behavioral science side of that authority, that trust from knowing what you're going to get for your money, people aren't going to watch it. It's the same for guests as it is for hosts as well. This is the other thing that winds me up is, you get guests on shows and they don't promote themselves either. They assume that the hosts are going to do it and it's all their job. And it's a two-way street. It's a crossing of audiences. You're renting each other's audience for a short period of time. And it's great, it's phenomenal, but only if you dare to help each other rather than just rely on each other. So I think for me, it's that the only person that gets bored with your content is you. I'm stealing that from my good friend Dave Plunkett. The only person who gets bored of your content is you. You can post about the same episode I do for a whole week. Nobody ever says, Paul, you're boring. At least not to my face. But it's true. You reach maybe 10% of your audience with any individual post, if you're lucky. So you've got to say the same thing 10 times for everyone in your audience to have seen it once. Like, how bonkers is that? And you post once.
Yeah, this is the thing that's frustrating for me, Paul, is a lot of people are jumping on podcasts and doing it in a really, really slick way, right? But it's their promotional material that's massively letting them down. And that's the reason why those shorts, those edits, those clips, those highlights that you mentioned there, regurgitating, recycling content, everyone is so stiff upper lip and so stubborn with it. They're like, oh no, I only share it once and I wouldn't ever repeat that clip and And I'm just like, you need to get with the times. Like, only 10% of your audience tops are going to see a single post on social media these days, right? This is new people, of course, right? So we have to repeat, we have to be consistent. Multi-platform as well. Oh no, my audience are only on LinkedIn. Yeah, but where do they spend their digital downtime? Instagram, YouTube. Hence the importance of getting those video clips. And that means that your podcast will last. Is that fair to say, Paul?
Yeah, I think it is, because that's how you grow your podcast, and you'll see it grow over time. And you're not looking for huge, viral growth. What you're looking for is consistent. This month was better than last month. This year has been better than last year. Doesn't matter if it's by a few or a lot. What matters is the quality of the people that you're attracting. And by seeing that growth of the right people, you'll naturally get the right conversations coming off the back of it. And let's be honest, what is the point of doing a podcast if we don't want to create conversations, right? So judge yourself not by how many leads or how much business gets done through it, but by how many good conversations you're creating as a result of the podcast. And when you see that growth, and that's what spurs you on to keep going through the dark times, right? And you will have dark times. It's not, even I got to episode 55 and I had to rebrand my podcast and take it down a totally different track because I ran out of steam. It was like, this is awful. I need to change something. And I looked for something that gave me more energy, more passion. And here we are. I'm heading on to, like you, we started about the same time, Chris. I'm almost on episode 100 as well. I'll have to go away and count them out. But yeah, it's about that consistency. It's about being ahead of the curve, not just recording your episode in the week, but it's also about doing the right things that you can start to see the right measures moving, not the ones that everybody talks about.
Brilliant advice, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today, your advice, your strategies. I'm sure people will be eager to learn more. Again, just want to repeat my point. I use Javelin content management. I use Paul's advice. And that's the reason why this podcast has grown and developed to the stage that it has today. So this is real, this is valuable, and it actually makes a difference to your brand and your business. It isn't just fluff. Paul, where can people find you, connect with you, work with you?
The easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. So I'm everywhere on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, there are quite a few Paul Banksers. So I'm Paul-Banks007, like James Bond. Make it nice and easy to remember. But if you search Paul Banks podcast, I'll definitely be the first one to come up. Or paul@javelincontent.com if you want to reach out on email.
I think your username should be the Paul Banks, personally, mate. But there we go. Look, thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate your time today.
And you, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. Love working with you on the show. Love your advice, and I think it's a two-way street, mate. I love the understanding that you have of social media, and it's helped bring me on so much in the aspects that I'm weak on. I think that's what every business relationship should be, right? And that's what I want people to get from their podcasts. How can you work together to be better than individuals on their own? But thank you very much for having me on again. Pleasure.
Very, very kind of you, Paul. And thank you so much once again to our new partnership of 2026, Paddy & Scott's, the High Performance Foundation, Game Plan Coffee. Every bag you buy makes a difference to kids in the UK. So make sure you grab a bag. You can buy it via the link below. Thank you once again for tuning into A Coffee with Chris. And I'll see you this time next week, because I've used Paul's advice, for another